We'll go ahead and get started today. Welcome again to the CALA Regulatory Update webinar. Peter Reset, just kind of managing things here for you today. Again, if you do have questions, please use the interface on GoToWebinar, and we'll bring those to the attention of our panel today. The folks on our panel today are going to be Corky, our Executive Vice President, as well as Nicole, who's on our board, and our president, Bill Bowles, who is a panelist today as well. Let's see here. I don't see that Bill's microphone is live right now. Bill's going to have to call back in, I think. I don't know if he can hear us.
Can you hear me?
Yep, there we
Peter,
go.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Test 1, 2.
Yep, you're loud and clear. I'm turning it over to you now, Bill. Go for it.
Okay. Well, on behalf of the Colorado Assisted Living Association, I'm so thankful that you all have taken time out of your busy day on a Friday to participate in this informational webinar. I'd also like to thank the panelist, Nicole Chabon, who is a registered nurse, and she's been part of the discussion every step of the way in this regard. And then Corky, thank you for facilitating this webinar. I'd like to get started today to kind of give you the objective of the webinar, and that is to, number one, raise awareness of what's been discussed here recently at the Assisted Living Residents Committee as we move forward to discuss rule changes to the Colorado Assisted Living Regulations. And one of the paramount issues that I'd like to discuss today is the concept of limited nursing and those things that have been proposed by the most recent draft from the Colorado Department of Health in two areas. One, in a small draft document that outlines exactly what is intended for limited nursing, but also in the main body of the regulations. And if you're following along, it would be on page 20 of those draft regulations that describes the various duties that are allowed by a primary care provider. And after review of the draft documents for the limited nursing concept, we've discovered some issues in there that appear to be prohibitive in terms of the way that we have managed our environment of care in our various communities. And so essentially what the proposal is saying is that there is going to be a separate designation as part of your licensure with the Department of Health for your community that would indicate that you are a limited nursing service provider. Not everybody has to be a limited nursing service provider, but if you choose to care for residents at that level, then you would need that designation. And along with that designation comes with a few caveats. And the way that the draft is written, as we speak, it would indicate that only certified nursing assistants and registered nurses are able to implement this level of care. And so from a standpoint of assisted living communities in the state of Colorado, it would radically change the face of the way that we implement care. And I also want to add that in light of all of this, the state has assured us at the very top level that these regulations are in a highly draft form, and that we have the ability, and when I say we, I'm saying the assisted living community in the state of Colorado at large, not just the association. And so by virtue of these being presented to the assisted living environment, as many providers as I've spoken with, it's very indicative to me that there is a tremendous need out there for providers to dig into these draft regulations and to take advantage of the opportunities that the state of Colorado is presenting for you to step up and comment based on your understanding of what the regulation is or what the draft regulation is and how it's going to affect your community. The state has offered and will offer ample opportunity for folks to be able to step up. And if you have a pen hopefully in front of you, you can write the date down of September 28th, which is the next Assisted Living Council meeting, where we will be discussing some of our comments relative to this draft document. And that meeting on the 28th is going to be at the Colorado Health Department, just off of Cherry and Colorado Boulevard, starting at noon. And part of this webinar is to encourage as many members as possible to not only read the regulations and read that draft regulation, but also come to that meeting so that you will be informed, that you can hear other perspectives, that you can go beyond your perception of understanding of what these draft regulations are, but also to have the opportunity to network to see if there are those individuals that have the same concerns that you have, and en masse are able to present those concerns to the Colorado Health Department. Because if I understand it correctly, for this next meeting, not only the committee will be there, but there are going to be individuals who participated in creating this draft document to hear comments from you on this draft regulation. So after, and let me kind of give you an idea of once this committee is finished their discussions, which we will be meeting through the month of October. We have essentially 3 meetings to go. After these meetings are done at the end of October, the health department has said literally that they are going to go on a road show throughout the state of Colorado to conduct town hall meetings between the months of November and February to take these draft regulations to the street and to allow town hall participation and comment to these draft regulations. And I have a level of confidence that this initiative of creating these town hall meetings is twofold. One, so that they can develop some very consistent or collect some consistent comments from those assisted living providers of all types across the state. But number 2, to also be able to communicate what these regulations are, because unfortunately not everybody is going to have the opportunity to read them, or they will not take the opportunity to read them. So going back to the date, so in February, the state of Colorado will take these regulations and put them, and they will secure a date for review. That date for review will then be scheduled in the next 90 days following. So in April of 2018, that's the time when these draft regulations are going to be brought before the Board of Health for approval. And once the Board of Health approves them, then they will be promulgated into regulation. So right now, as we speak, even though we've had a goal to finish the commentary, the initial commentary of the regulations before the month of November, they will not go into effect until after April of 2018 of next year. So again, the whole purpose of this webinar is to make you aware of these potential changes that are in what I've been assured is a highly draft form, where we have the ability to comment and hopefully elicit change, because there are very consistent comments. And one of the things I want to caution everyone about is, if you do attend the meeting, it's our intention as the Colorado Assisted Living Association that we are able to approach this from a collaborative standpoint, and not necessarily a radical perspective of we're going to storm the gates of the health department with pitchforks and torches to make sure that they know that we're not going to take this laying down. Well, we don't want to have that perspective as an association. We want to be able to collaborate with the state to elicit as much change as possible. And so from the limited nursing standpoint, right now in the regulations, the way that it reads and the way that we have interpreted it as an association, that residents who require assistance with activities of daily living are going to require the limited nursing designation in their license. There also, on page 20 of the draft regulations, there are some very distinct descriptions in there of what primary care providers or personal care providers are going to be allowed to do. Unfortunately, there is a lot of dovetailing that needs to take place in terms of the certified nursing assistant scope of practice, the registered nurses scope of practice as it relates to DORA, and the Colorado regulations in terms of what a personal care provider is allowed to do. And so from the Colorado assisted living perspective, the draft regulations for limited nursing services absolutely needs to be modified and clarified so that these seemingly conflicting issues are resolved, and so that the final regulation is going to be very clear. And so the purpose of why that they have developed the limited nursing service care was done for a very specific purpose, and it's based on surveys that were conducted by the Colorado Department of Health and a focus on protective oversight. So that, in a nutshell, is what this draft regulation is about. And so what I'd like to do is, from a nursing perspective, just allow Nicole, who participated in our written response to the state to these draft regulations, if you can kind of give us an idea, the definition of what limited nursing services really is, Nicole, from a nursing perspective.
Okay, Bill. Sorry, I really didn't prepare anything. From a nursing perspective, as far as limited nursing, it is going to mandate that all of us assisted living have nurses or consults with nurses that are going to be available to CNAs while they are giving this limited nursing care, so that we can provide protective oversight, guidance, and education to include supervisory visits of the CNAs. Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Yeah, because the definition of limited nursing is, it's a little ambiguous because of and then the other special designation of certified nursing assistants for the MMA. And prior to this, the assisted living environment has never had to reconcile with the requirement of a CNA operating under that certification with the additional MMA designation. So there's a lot of confusion about that as well.
Do we have any questions for anyone that is listening?
So
Peter, do we have any questions?
What's that?
Do we have any questions that people are sending in?
Yeah, so one of the questions is how are they defining limited nursing? What services actually fall under that?
Well,
so that's our biggest
draft. Go ahead, Nick. Go ahead, Nicole.
No, that's all you. That's all you.
Well, right now that's the ambiguous part of the draft regulation, because right now, under the limited nursing section of the draft, they have indicated that anyone that is requiring services under the assistance with daily living definition, that you as a community will need to implement or have the designation for limited nursing services. And that's from the regulatory standpoint. From the practice standpoint, Nicole, you could probably speak to it better than me.
So from the practice standpoint, things are really gray, and that's part of what our response to the health department was, is that we really want to see specifically what a CNA is expected to do under the limited nursing licensure, and what a PCP or QMAP or caregiver can continue to do in assisted living. And we really do want that to be something that is clearly documented, because right now, when we read through the documents, it's a little bit unclear. We also asked the question if a CNA with a QMAP could continue to both provide CNA level of care and also pass meds. Because we all know, and most of us have heard of the CNA MAA, where CNAs take an additional course to be able to dispense medications. When we read through all of that, though, the MAA would become somewhat prohibitive in our environment for a CNA to pass meds. So that's another big question that we are going to ask the health department, because that could also cause complications to care.
Hey, Peter, do we have another question?
So one question, and I'm not sure if there's a more current version of this. I think the one I have is July. Is there a more current version of the draft?
Yes, there is. The health department sends the draft regulations before each ALR meeting. So the one that you have in July is out of date, and so you have the ability to request those draft regulations at any time.
Do you have an email with the most recent that you can forward over to me, and I can send that out? I can get that to everybody.
Yeah, I can do that.
But you've got the latest, obviously, I guess.
Yes, we do have the latest.
That was the question.
Okay.
So another question, how is it going to affect okay, well, one question is, what's the financial impact for homes that are 10 beds or less, the smaller homes, compared to a larger facility?
Well, the potential financial impact will be if you decide to become or attain that designation of a limited nursing service provider. You will be required to hire CNA or CNAs to do the work that falls under the limited nursing services scope. And Nicole, can you remind me about the supervisory needs for CNA? And there's some ambiguity with that too as well, right?
Correct. So we're not exactly quite sure if they are going to require us to follow home care type regulations regarding how nurses do supervisory visits as CNA in that manner. But basically, I mean, the financial impact to small and large facilities could be quite, I mean, for those small facilities or large facilities that don't have nurses on staff, you know, you're going to have to either get a nurse on staff or be able to contract with a nurse. And also the increased costs of having CNAs, which a lot of us don't. We mostly have caregivers with QMAPs. So all in all, the increased cost to everyone to be able to provide limited nursing is and can be, you know, somewhat of a budgeting concern that everyone's going to have to address in their own businesses. But it's definitely going to put more pressure on the smaller facilities as well.
And then can you describe what the impact might be for Medicaid providers?
Well, we have made contact with HCPF because we wanted to make sure that they are following this as well. The biggest concern, of course, is in the private pay facilities, you have the ability to charge clients due to their level of care. Medicaid, we get paid a straight rate, and so if you have to provide limited nursing to a Medicaid client, your costs would be more, but you wouldn't get paid anymore. And therefore, our concern as an association is that it's going to become more and more difficult for clients that require a little bit of CNA care to find placement in assisted living, and therefore, you know, we'd have a larger population of Medicaid individuals in nursing homes opposed to in assisted living. So we have reached out to them. They have been going to the meetings. They have concerns, and they are also expressing those to the health department. So we're just trying to make sure that everyone knows what's going on. Everybody knows what the topic is regarding limited nursing and the potential impact, and also try and encourage all the membership to also speak out, review the pending regulations, come to the meeting on the 28th, and express concerns as well.
Thanks, Nicole. And one of the other things that we had also discussed from a resident rights standpoint, that especially from the Medicaid environment, that for all intents and purposes, individuals have the right to choose where they want to live. And subsequently, they have the right to choose the way that they live through end of life. And unfortunately, because of the limited nursing scope, the way that we have interpreted the draft regulations, that there could be a compromise in allowing residents to be able to make that choice. Because if a community doesn't have the limited nursing designation, like Nicole said, then they're not going to be able to care for these folks as their acuity increases. So that's another thing that we're pursuing in terms of our comments. So, Peter, are there any other questions?
Indeed, there are. Let's see. So one question, if a resident is receiving skilled home health services or hospice services, would the home still have to have CNAs or an RNA or a medical director?
Peter, can you say that again?
Yeah, so if a resident is receiving skilled home health care, either home health services or hospice, does the home still need to have a CNA and an RNA and a medical director? So basically, I think what they're asking is if they're getting outside services that are skilled services like home health or hospice, does the facility still need to have CNAs and RNs?
No. Because the home health agency and the hospice agency acting under their own licensure. So as long as the assisted living is in no way, shape, or form giving skilled care, which is quite a complex list of things under the ADL, so I do encourage everyone to look at that. But if the facility, the assisted living is not providing any skilled CNA care, then no, there would be no need for a CNA or an RN because the home health care agency would be managing that.
Okay. There's a question, is this going to affect facilities for adults with mental illness? I don't know if there's a difference in that in the regs.
Well, I think the way that I'd like to answer that question is probably the purpose of this entire call, is for folks to be able to participate in the review process of the draft regulations to participate in the explanation and presentation from the health department, and to be able to actually overlay those draft regulations and the comments to them in the direction that the state is going in terms of promulgating these regs, that you're able to take this and apply it to your own scope of practice and environment of care and designation that you have. So, I mean, there's such a diversity of assisted living providers that it would be very difficult for us to be able to say how that this is going to affect the model that you've established and built. So that's why that's why we're conducting this webinar and leaning so strong on our members and participants to be able to evaluate this on your own to see how it's going to affect your business and your environment of care.
Okay. So this is another question which might be hard to answer, but it's talking about the Board of Nursing. Has the Board of Nursing indicated that a CNA can be supervised by a nurse who is not physically present on site? Because a CNA needs to have direct supervision 24/7.
So that isn't always true. In home health care, as we know, CNAs go out and do independent care. Nurses are not present. That's part of what we are asking for, though, in clarification. Because if you do look at specifically the CNA with MAA, there are two areas, and that can be found under DORA. They kind of contradict each other. There's a section 2 that clearly says that an RN has to be able to provide protective oversight, which leads me to believe that the RN needs to be on site. But I'm not exactly quite sure that's the intent of that passage, because then if you go further down into the CNA with MAA, it clearly says in section 5 that if a nurse is not available on site, a nurse must be available via phone. So that's one of the things that we're trying to get the health department to define for all of us in the assisted living world, because how hospitals practice and how nursing homes practice and home care agencies practice and even how adult day programs practice with their CNAs and their nursing is completely different. So we are hoping to find the answer to that.
Okay. Let's see here. Well, I guess we need to figure out what the most current regs are, because like some of this is, I don't know, we got to get the most current regs. What time is the next meeting? It's on the 28th. What time?
12 noon.
12 noon. Okay.
Noon to 3 o'clock.
All right, let's see. Clients who receive HHA or hospice services, I'm not sure what HHA is, and are Medicaid, can Medicaid clients get Medicaid home health services and not able to abide by limited nursing? So I'm guessing, I think that goes back to if you're a facility that doesn't do limited nursing, but you have home health come in and do it for you.
I would assume that HHA is home health.
Yeah, home health. So home health, there could be Medicaid from home health, right?
Correct. So home health, again, functions under their own licensure. So as long as they're coming in and providing all the skilled care, then as the assisted living, you don't have to carry the limited nursing licensure if you're not providing the care. but that gets really sticky when it comes to incontinence care, skilled transfers, even down to oral care. And that's why I really encourage everyone on the line to take a look at the proposed regulations, because some of the things that they're saying caregivers can no longer do could make it really difficult for a home health agency to be able to provide that type of consistent care in an assisted living.
So Nicole, we had two questions on this. I just need to clarify, see if I understand correctly. So if a community, whether they're Medicaid or not, if a community has decided not to take on the limited nursing service designation, and they have individuals in their communities that either need hospice or home health, that the hospice company or the home health company, they're the only ones that can provide that limited nursing service. And unfortunately, what happens when hospice and home health have to leave the community and those residents need services that are provided by either hospice or home health? So can those individuals with home health and hospice stay in that community? Because then it would be the community's responsibility to do the supportive work of hospice and home health?
Well, no. I mean, so if there's skilled care that needs to be done, like a skilled shower, skilled dressing, skilled oral care, as defined right now in the proposed new regulations, those are things that assisted living caregivers or PCPs can no longer do, and that a CNA would have to do. And either the CNA needs to function under the assisted living licensure or under the home care's licensure, but then it would be the home care's CNA and staff coming in to provide the care. So yes, we could probably use home care in some isolated areas. So if you have a client that needs a skilled shower, they need a hands-on shower, you can set the shower days. If you can find a home health agency that would come in and provide that level of care, and if their insurance covers it, then you don't have to worry about providing limited nursing care, because the home health agency can come in and do that. The biggest concern is going to be on those skilled nursing tasks that need to be done at a moment's notice, like incontinence care, as they refer to in the new regulations, or transfers as they refer to in the new pending regulations. If a home health agency can't be there to do that type of stuff.
Okay, that's exactly what I was wondering. Thank you. That's perfect. Okay, Peter, any other questions?
Yeah, the main thing is just trying to find the right, the most current draft. So I think Eileen has it, or if you have it, if you can send that to me, I can get it out to everybody right away. Yeah, Eileen sent it over, so I'm trying to get it so I can send it to everybody that's on right now.
And people can go to CDPHE's website and download them too as well.
Well, I mean, let's just get that link. Where is that link?
Keep going with more questions, Peter. We'll get that out to the participants, and we'll put that on the website.
I'll get it out to everybody. All right. Let's see what else we got. What impact will this have on the LPN role in an AL community?
Say that again, Peter. What impact?
The LPN role?
Well, and I'll leave this up to Nicole, but if I understand it correctly, the regulation doesn't really, just because of the limitations of their scope of practice, that they haven't really outlined a detailed role for the LPN.
That is correct. It seems to us from reviewing, and again, we're trying to clarify, that the supervision needs to be provided by an RN. Again, we're not 100% on that. We're asking for clarification.
Okay.
Is there anything else, Peter?
Hang on here. Let's look. Let's see. So Eileen says, it's my understanding that LPNs can't supervise CNAs under the Board of Nursing. Let's see.
That's correct.
So if insurance does not cover services, once again, residents' rights, does the facility have to evict the resident? And then what is the Ombudsman's recommendations regarding this new regs? I don't know if the Ombudsmans have been involved in this.
Yeah, we have the head of the Ombudsman program in Shannon Gimbel. She's also on the ALR committee. But can you ask that again? We can't obviously speak from the perspective of the Ombudsman. If
insurance is not going to cover these extra services, then, you know, even though the resident may want those, so then the facility would have to evict the resident?
So when you talk about insurance, are we talking about Medicare?
Well, I mean, that's some kind of long-term care insurance.
So essentially,
long-term care.
Well, essentially, this is the thing. If you have a client that needs limited nursing, and as an assisted living, you choose not to provide limited nursing services, and if there's no finances nor coverage for limited nursing, you cannot keep that resident in your facility because you can't provide the care. So yes, it is mentioned in the pending regulation that you will have to discharge that individual because you can't provide them the level of care that they need.
Let's see. Yeah, I think that's really the... Well, I think this might be a more than a question. Are these regs considered discriminatory against small ALRs? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I don't. You know, I think that the intent of the regulations is to be discriminatory of deficient practices. That's the best way I can put it. I honestly don't believe that these regulations have been drafted with any type of purpose of limiting anybody's ability to do business. I think that unfortunately there are unintended consequences of any type of regulations that are passed. But that's why the health department's opening it up for comment. I honestly, I don't have any beliefs that these regs have been drafted to limit the number of small communities or to limit how smaller communities practice. Okay, Peter, we're going to take, is that the last question? We'll take one more and
I think, let me see here, I think that's probably it. I've got the latest copy of the reg, so I'm getting that uploaded. Going to send you a link right now to the most current. So give me just a minute and I'll do that.
Okay. Okay, well, everyone, I appreciate your participation. I appreciate those of you that have written questions, and this is a process for all of us, and I'm sorry if we didn't have any definitive answers to some of your questions, but the answers to those questions lies in the ability for us to be able to participate and ask questions directly from those who actually drafted the regulations. So I will look forward to seeing you on September 28th, and I'd like to also let you know that our conference this year in October, and you see that on your computer screen, it's 26th and 27th, and that's a Thursday and Friday, and the afternoon of the 26th is going to be, the whole thing is going to be centered around the new regulations. On Thursday, we are going to be having 3 talks that relate directly to these updated regs. One has to do with waste management and the new rules having to do with destruction of medication and handling medical waste, because the new regulations are pointing to the Resource Conservation and Recovery Act. So we definitely need clarification on that. The second one has to do with food handling and the designation and training and requirement by the new regulations. And then there will be a QMAP discussion on Thursday. Friday afternoon, we are, Elaine McManus and Dee Rita and Randy Kirkendall will all be there on Friday. We're going to have a very focused discussion on limited nursing services and the new role of the administrator. So this year's conference is going to be very robust in hopefully clarifying and giving context of the new regulations to the way you practice and the perspectives of the health department. So I hope that as many of you as possible invite those folks that you have association with to come to the conference, and we're looking forward to a very, very good time. So Nicole, thank you so much for your participation. Corky, Peter, thank you for your help. And with that, I will say have a great Friday afternoon, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. If you want to stay on for just a moment, I've got the link here. Just got to add it to here so I can send it to you. We'll also send it out in email, and we'll send you a recording of this as well. I just got to get back to the interface.
All right, thanks, Peter.
Yep, thank you. There we go. All right, there's the link I just posted in the regular chat. And you can download it there, and we'll be sending it out in email as well. So we'll stay on here for just a couple more minutes for folks if you want to download it directly from the link.